Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and iOS 26 Beta 9 and iOS 26 Public Beta 6 have been out for a few days, and iOS 18.6.2 has been out for a couple of weeks. But there's even more to talk about since the iOS 26 Beta 9 is out. What's new video. We'll talk about the latest Apple news, some new features, as well as the overall experience. Not just my experience, but your experience based off the YouTube community poll, where at the time of this video there's over 24,000 votes and 240 comments. I've gone over all the comments to determine what the experience is like for everyone, so be sure to stick around toward the end of the video where I'll read some of your comments as well. Now, Apple just opened another store in India. Apple's opened the fourth store you can see here, Apple Korangal Park, and it opened this past Thursday on September 4th. So this one's open. They'll probably be opening more, but we're seeing more and more of this in India as they've got some nice new Apple stores. So if you live near this one, I heard that they were handing out keychains or something along those lines at the previous store opening. If you were able to make it to this one, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. iPhone season and iOS season is once again upon us at last, and we have some last-minute things to cover as well. We're expecting some of the best battery life ever in the iPhone 17 Pro Max, and a few other things we'll cover in a little bit. Now, Apple added some new games to Apple Arcade on Thursday with Jeopardy Daily and NFL Retro Bowl 26. You can get them on Apple Arcade. Here you can see them available, where if you want to install those, try those out, they're available now. So these were announced some time ago, and maybe we'll get some more at the upcoming Apple event. Now, the updated Siri is a little ways away. We had this refreshed design last year. However, it hasn't really improved as far as the overall intelligence. The updated Siri won't be released until next year, according to Apple a couple months ago, but a new report says Apple has more plans as they will now have a Siri that has a new LLM or large language model for world knowledge, according to Mark Gurman. This new Siri will help with searches similar to Gemini and ChatGPT when you ask a question. For example, it will support searching for things such as photos, videos, local points of interest, and much more. So this shows some confidence that Apple has in their own Siri and AI, where maybe it will be able to do the tasks we've thought it should be able to do all along. So it would be great to have their own model where it has privacy as a focus, but again, we're a few months off, probably around iOS 26.4 is when we could expect that, maybe even later. Now, there's quite a few app updates this week as well. If we go back into the App Store, Apple once again pushed out an update for Apple Invites. This time around, it says this update contains bug fixes and performance improvements. Maybe it's in relation to things such as the widget not showing any information. In fact, I showed this in a video the other day, and I actually had to uninstall the Apple Invites app and then reinstall it, and then the widget would work properly. So for whatever reason, it wasn't working, but it is now. So hopefully that was one of the fixes. In one of the biggest surprises this week, we actually got an update for Instagram on iPad. It's something we haven't really expected for quite some time. We thought they weren't going to make it, but then they finally released it. It's not super exciting in that it's basically just Instagram in the middle with some buttons on the side, but it is available now if you want to use that. And for those of you that use other apps from Meta, such as WhatsApp, it looks like the version that's going to contain liquid glass is coming very soon. So according to WA Beta Info, the liquid glass design is coming soon. Now, the reason we haven't seen a bunch of apps updated with liquid glass yet is Apple doesn't allow developers to submit updates that include the iOS 26 updates until closer to the final release. So we'll probably see a bunch of those either next week or the following week. So we can expect that. Now, when it comes to iOS 26, many people have been saying that iOS 26 is improving the overall algorithm or maybe the image pipeline for the camera on the iPhone. So the iPhone 16 Pro Max and 16 Pro in particular supposedly have much better photos with the same algorithm. So I thought we'd show you just a couple, see what you think. Let me know what you think about them in the comments below. So here's one you can see of my desk, sort of the same shot that we're seeing here from overhead. And then here's another one in some different lighting. So let me know what you think of it. Do you think they've improved it compared to iOS 18.6.2 that we have here? Or do you think it's mostly the same? All of the settings are identical though. So again, let me know what you think. Now, when it comes to new features, on iPad it seems there's a new notification letting you know when a nearby iPhone has personal hotspot available. So if you actually have the personal hotspot option, maybe you have that through your carrier, it will now give you the option on your iPad if you don't have cellular, letting you know. This popped up for someone on Reddit and could have been there since Beta 1, but so far I haven't seen anyone mention it or report on it, so I thought I'd share it. Apple this week updated Apple Wallet where there's a new option for pay later when you go to add a card. So if we go into Apple Wallet here, if we go into the plus option, you'll see now we have pay later options. If we go into it, it says you can pay later with Affirm or Klarna, and it now shows up. So this is an option available for those in specific regions that have the options. So let me know if you're seeing this. If you're seeing it on older versions, I didn't see it on iOS 18.6.2, but it's only showing for me on iOS 26 so far. Now there's a new feature long rumored for iOS 26 with live translation done in real time by AirPods, and it seems to be coming later according to an anonymous tip received by 9to5Mac. While the current AirPods should be able to support it given their chipset, we don't know if that's going to be the case, but the upcoming AirPods Pro 3 are expected to have heart rate sensors, and the new earbuds will also eventually support that live translation feature. Now the good news is the feature was never specifically announced by Apple. It was rumored by Mark Gurman to be at WWDC and then rumored to be coming later on. So it doesn't seem that it's something that they're promising and not delivering on, but we could see it with iOS 26.1 or iOS 26.2. One other thing I wanted to mention has to do with liquid glass altogether. I showed you in the Beta 9 video, if you go into Wi-Fi here, and then maybe we just turn it off, we don't have the liquid glass effect for some reason. It seems that Apple forgot it in another place as well. If we go into the watch, and then within the display and brightness options, you'll see wake on wrist raise. If I turn that off, you'll see there's no liquid glass there. But if I tap on things such as bold text, there's liquid glass. The same is true on wake on crown rotation. So it looks like they forgot this. I'm not sure why. You would think it would just sort of be a blanket update across all the different switches and everything else, but so far it's not on this particular switch. So hopefully we'll see that updated with the RC. Now, when it comes to iPhone 17, well, iPhone 17 Pro is just a couple days away from being shown and could be a much larger upgrade for battery life and power. This is just a dummy unit that represents basically what we expect the overall look to be, and in combination with a new chipset, the iPhone 17 Pro Max is now said to feature the best battery life of any iPhone ever. So it could have a 5,000 milliamp hour battery according to the latest leaks, and that would be great to see. Incredible battery life, probably better thermals to go along with that as well. And also it seems the back will have a cutout or a charging area that gives it a two-tone design according to Mark Gurman. So that's something we could see on the back here, which would make much more sense as far as the placement of the Apple logo, where this would be centered inside of sort of a square cutout here that would be the charging area that could be glass. So again, we'll have to wait and see what that looks like. Also, recent rumors suggest we could have a smaller dynamic island. So it could be smaller, they've shrunk down some of the components, and maybe we'll see that shrunk down quite a bit on the iPhone 17 models. But again, we'll have to wait and see it in person once Apple releases it, but that would be great to see if it sort of could just disappear and then show up as needed. Now, as far as releases this week, well, Apple did release a new Safari technology preview. It's available now if you're testing it out, and you'll see it's version 227. It's available for macOS Tahoe and macOS Sequoia, so if you want to test out the most recent updates as far as Safari, you're able to do that, test maybe some changes you're making, and see how they work. Also, we're waiting for updates with iOS 18. iOS 18.7 is said to be in the works, and we could see iOS 18.7 RC as soon as next week. Typically after the event on the 9th, we can expect iOS 26 RC, maybe we'll see iOS 18.7 RC, and then of course just a week after that or so, we can expect the iOS 26 public release date. So maybe on the 15th or 16th, we'll see it released to the public. Of course, Apple could change this, they could release it sooner or maybe even later, but either way, it's still in the works until they tell us it's available. So we'll know that release date at the Apple event, the awe-dropping Apple event for iPhone 17. If you're wanting to pre-order iPhones, well, you can expect the pre-order date to typically be after the event the following Friday. So usually the 12th is what seems likely this time around, with it releasing to the public on the 19th. So if you want to pick one up in an Apple store or maybe your local carrier, that's typically when you can pick it up in the public and then pre-order again on the 12th. Now, when it comes to the overall experience, iOS 18.6.2 continues to be stable, smooth, and reliable according to most comments. Very few people report any issues with things such as battery drain, and any issues mentioned seem to be related to apps, such as maybe YouTube audio sync, or notifications not working on YouTube, or specific apps just having glitches, so those would need to be updated by developers. There is still that wallpaper bug, and you can typically see it on more vibrant wallpapers. You can see it here where it desaturates. But again, I've mentioned this before, where it seems to be fixed on iOS 26. So it looks like they've finally fixed that. Again, we'll get rid of that here. And if we scroll up from the home screen, usually it stays the same. So again, why they haven't fixed it in iOS 18, I'm not sure, but it does appear to be fixed in iOS 26. When it comes to iOS 26 Beta 9 and iOS 26 Public Beta 6, well, those on iPhone 15 and 16 models say iOS 26 Beta 9 and Public Beta 6 are generally smooth, snappy, and responsive for the most part. However, sometimes you do get lag, stuttering, and odd freezing, and I've shown this by going to the Apple website. And it looks like someone actually pointed this out, and I'll mention it here, where if we go down to maybe the Apple event, you'll see it's scrolling just fine for me now, but if I press and hold on Apple event, it doesn't move. This is because that's actually an animation that you can interact with. And again, if we do that in this direction, you'll see it here where it sort of fills in. And if I scroll outside of it, it works fine. If I scroll within it, it's actually locked to the screen. So it wasn't my screen freezing, it was just this animation freezing. There's also a couple other things that are a bug or not finished maybe, is if we go into our display settings, you'll see the wallpapers haven't been updated yet. We'll probably see that with the RC. And also the flashlight in the control center on iPad is still there and is causing a respring. So that's an odd bug that still remains. So if we go into the control center here, we'll press and hold. You'll see the flashlight is now here. If I press it, well, it turns on the flashlight for me, but some people are saying it has a respring when they actually tap and activate the flashlight. So maybe it's on older iPads, but on the latest one, it works fine. Apple CarPlay is still not working for some and disconnecting for others. For example, it will quickly connect to my car and then disconnect and reconnect to my car. In another car I have, sometimes it just won't connect altogether and activate CarPlay. It will connect via Bluetooth and then it wouldn't activate CarPlay. I had to do a hard reboot and then it worked again. So there's still some work to be done here, and there's some odd graphical glitches as well, with things such as clear and tinted icons, and it typically seems to be on older devices, but if we go to clear icons there, my widget is now working properly, but you'll see it's okay, but sometimes slow to fill in, and there's some graphical glitches as well. So hopefully they resolve these soon, but either way, it still has a little ways to go. Others are saying that Siri isn't responding properly, but I've sort of given up on Siri until we have that new, smarter version, maybe sometime next year. And other than performance issues and lag in some older devices, there's some specific issues that are related to apps or parts of the OS. For example, the keyboard cuts off sometimes and has graphical glitches in specific apps for some people. The Health app, for some reason, isn't showing data for some. So if you're in the Health app and maybe you're waiting for it to update, sometimes it takes a while or just doesn't show at all. And then other times, phone and voicemail are not displaying properly. Now for myself, I've been having it sort of screen my calls, but I find this to be a bit of a pain as sometimes I miss calls. So it's something that seems to be a bug. I've missed a few calls because of the screening issue, and sometimes it just doesn't work properly and they go right to voicemail. So I've had some odd issues there. When it comes to performance, well, I talked about that a little bit already. Generally, it's pretty good on the latest phones. You'll see ProMotion ramps up and down and is smooth like you would expect, and opening and closing apps generally is fast, but I do notice some touch responsive issues from time to time, going into things such as the camera are fast, and overall it's pretty good, but from time to time it's a little bit odd. When it comes to the overall heat and thermals, well, quite a few are reporting that it's still overheating for them. It's very cool to the touch to me right now, especially with iOS 18.6.2, but let's go ahead and run benchmarks. We'll heat the phone up a little bit and see what it measures at. So let's go ahead and run this here. We're about halfway through the benchmarks. Let's go ahead and take a look at the thermals. On iOS 26 Beta 9 on iPhone 16 Pro Max, we're at about right around 39.9 to 40 degrees Celsius. On iOS 18.6.2, we're at around 37 degrees Celsius or so. So a little bit cooler doing the same task. That's to be expected. Let's take a look at the benchmarks. We'll wait for it to complete and take a look. Benchmarks just completed, and with iOS 18.6.2 on the left, it has 3,505 for single core compared to 3,395 for single core on iOS 26 Beta 9. iOS 18.6.2 has a multi-core score of 8,662 compared to 8,417. Both doing quite well within the margin of error, and what we would expect compared from a public version to maybe a beta. So overall, very good, consistent overall now, where it wasn't so much before. Now, if you're wondering if you should install iOS 18.6.2 or iOS 26 betas, well, iOS 18.6.2 is very stable. You know what to expect. All of your apps should work, and they should be supported. So if you're having questions about whether or not you should install it, I would stick with the public version until iOS 26 is released to the public. If you're on iOS 26 betas, any of them, I would upgrade to the latest public beta or regular developer beta, test it out, and then report feedback as needed. So that's something I would recommend if you're already on iOS 26. If you're still questioning it, wait for the public release as we're not too far away. When it comes to battery life, let's take a look at someone else's battery, and then we'll take a look at mine. Thanks to Abhishek for sending this in. This is on an iPhone 16e with 100% battery health and an 80% limit set. He had 3 hours and 13 minutes of screen on time, 49 minutes of screen off time with 31% battery usage. The day before, 6 hours and 34 minutes of screen on time, 1 hour and 19 minutes of screen off time with 66% usage. So overall, very, very good. My battery has definitely gotten better with iOS 26 Beta 9. But it's still not perfect. But if we take a look, we'll go into battery health. I'm at 94% capacity with 319 cycles. You can see more details here with coconut battery. And if we take a look at my usage, well, we'll go down to battery usage. And, well, today, 53 minutes so far. But if we take a look at yesterday, 2 hours and 44 minutes of screen active time, 2 hours and 26 minutes of screen idle time. And I use 65% of the battery. The day before, about the same. It's definitely a little bit better than we've seen before. I'm getting about 4 to 4.5 hours of screen on time. With previous betas, I might get 3 hours or 3.5 hours. So it's definitely an improvement. I saw that right away as I wasn't going to bed with it 20%. So it seems like it's much, much better. But again, still needs work. And I do have a lot of things going on in the background here. Now, based on the comments, many said iOS 18.6.2 battery life was solid and more consistent than iOS 26 betas. When it came to iOS 26 Beta 9 or Public Beta 5, some report much better battery life or excellent battery life, but still not as good as iOS 18. This time, though, 87% of comments said that battery was good or improved compared to the previous beta. So that's a big improvement. Again, hopefully it gets much, much better with the RC and final release. Now, as far as what you had to say about the overall experience, let's take a look at some of your comments. Carrie Mel by 25 said 18.6.2 are great on my 13 Pro, not heating up and no bugs. James Coleman Chess says iOS 26 Public Beta 6 on iPhone 14 Plus seems generally good, but it seems to have broken some of my shortcuts. Can't use Power Utility or Battery Stats Checker. The analytics won't load anymore. Battery life is so-so, nothing to complain about. Ghostly9086 says, I am on iOS 26 Public Beta 6 on my iPhone 15, and the update is very stable and smooth. Battery life seems to be improved majorly, and other than some little bugs which are left here and there, the software seems to be ready for the public release. Justin Cole, YT1, said, installed iOS 26 Public Beta 6 on my iPhone 11, and compared to the last 5 Public Beta updates, this one feels the smoothest of all the updates. Less bugs, yet still has some, and app crashes. Yup 1.0 says, they finally ironed out a lot of the issues with the 13 Pro Max with 26 Public Beta 6. Much improved. Nick Stoss says, well, I gotta say 15 Pro Max battery life is much better on Beta 9. I hope with the RC and or RC2 it stays like it is with Beta 9. Had camera issues, but now I don't. I turned my phone off and on after waiting 5 minutes. Doing so, iOS 26 reminds me of iOS 7 days, which I'm in love with. 2010 PIWKO said, iPhone 15 Pro Max, I'm on Developer Beta 9 now, and it's the best one so far. The animations are smooth for the most of the time, and the battery is still something they need to work on. Long story short, it's usable. Now, when it comes to storage, if we take a look on both versions here, so we'll go back, go into General, and then iPhone Storage, give it a second to load. We'll scroll to the bottom here, and you'll see iOS 18.6.2 is taking up 18.66 gigabytes. iOS 26 Beta 9 is taking up 19.81 gigabytes. So not too much larger. We'll go back here, and you'll see iOS 26 is taking up 13.54 gigabytes compared to 12.39, but Apple Intelligence is taking up a little less at 6.27 gigabytes. So generally pretty good overall. I would say for all of the graphical updates and everything, the overall update size isn't unreasonable. So about a gig larger than iOS 18. Based on the majority of comments on the YouTube community poll and online, iOS 18.6.2 remains stable and reliable with good to great battery life. iOS 26 Beta 9 and Public Beta 6, based on the comments, is promising but inconsistent. User experiences still are highly varied, and I really didn't expect many of you to say that you're willing to accept bugs to experience the new liquid glass design, but it seems like most people don't mind dealing with it just to have a new design overall. Hopefully, though, iOS 26 RC finally irons out the remaining graphical issues and bugs to make it the most stable version in some time. So hopefully we'll see a much better version than we've seen from years. iOS 18 took almost an entire year for it to be fairly stable. So that's everything with iOS 26 Beta 9, Public Beta 6, and iOS 18.6.2. I'm looking forward to see what the final release has to offer. Hopefully it'll be much more stable, and of course we're just a couple days away from the iPhone 17 event. So I'm looking forward to that, and curious if you're planning to pick one up. I'd love to hear if you're planning to pick up an iPhone 17, 17 Air, iPhone 17 Pro, or iPhone 17 Pro Max. Let me know in the comments below. Of course, I'll link this wallpaper in the description like I normally do, and if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe, and if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.